My entire life, I've put so much pressure on myself to do well in life. And I did, until I didn't and burnt out. I'm now at a point in my life that honestly, I just don't care anymore. I'm tired. I don't care about being perfect anymore. For most of my life, I saw my imperfections as reasons to hide my true self. If you've ever felt like you weren't enough, only worthy if you performed well, if you've beaten yourself up over flaws or mistakes that you've made, I know exactly how you feel. I spent years battling self-doubt, looking for validation from others, but that mindset totally kept me stuck. So we're doing things differently now. I've just stopped giving up. So what if we change that and approach our flaws with understanding, or maybe even embracing them? People always talk about self-love, but let's just start small and start with liking ourselves and all the quirks that we have. That also means redefining success. Success is no longer about proving myself to others, no longer about proving myself to the world. It's about how present I am in my own life. And imperfection is a part of who we are. That's what makes us human. The one thing we all are is imperfect. And when we embrace our own flaws, we allow others to do the same. I used to view showing vulnerability as a weakness. But now, in my 40s, I see that vulnerability, when shown, becomes a strength, a superpower. The audacity to be yourself empowers others to find their true authenticity as well. That's when we all start to grow, not in spite of our imperfections, but because of them. So take it from this friendly internet auntie in her 40s. Be nice to yourself. Embrace imperfection. Do things because you want to do them. Don't give a fluff. Just do it because it brings you joy. What other people think of you is their business. And don't be afraid to show your vulnerabilities from time to time. That's where your true strength lies. One of you actually commented on a previous video of mine that nature is a great teacher because perfection doesn't exist in nature. Everything has its own time, everything has its own flaws, and just nature, even though it has flaws, it just keeps on naturing, right? Nature flourishes despite of things not being perfect. And I used to be a very proud perfectionist. I wanted everything to be correct and done perfectly well. But now that I'm 40, I have just adopted a mindset that perfectionism basically is a myth and not something that I want to strive for anymore. Doing things exceptionally well, that's where I derived my happiness from, and that's where I derived my identity from. But then as soon as something went wrong, or if I made a mistake, then I would just feel completely bad when something went wrong, and I don't want to have that feeling anymore. Now that I'm an internet auntie in my 40s, I am taking a page out of nature's book and I'm embracing all my flaws, all my imperfections, and just keep flourishing, even though sometimes I might make a mistake or even though things might not be perfect. I'm perfectly imperfect. That's my new mindset. And it really does feel like, it feels like a breath of fresh air that I can finally relax and no longer put so much pressure on myself. I can just be. It's so much nicer. External validation used to be everything to me. Success meant proving myself to others and not only meeting expectations, but actually exceeding expectations. I definitely had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder to prove everybody out there wrong. I used to be an aerospace engineer and then an airline pilot, and in both of those professions, there were a few people that had to tell me that either the profession wasn't for women or that people of my kind shouldn't be doing that type of profession. That stuff was handed to me just because of my skin color. And honestly, it was not a whole lot of people, right? It's very few people in my orbit of a lot of people that were really nice or at least respectful, but those few voices were really, really loud to me. And so I needed to prove them wrong. I needed to prove that I didn't get anything handed to me. I needed to prove that I was worth it to be in that position and to work alongside of them. And honestly, proving myself so much all the time and always have to do 150% to be able to match with other people because good was never good enough. It needed to be perfect. That type of living was really, really exhausting, and it eventually led to burnout. Now that I've stopped overachieving and that I'm trying to live a slower and simpler life, those same voices are now saying that, see, I was right. She couldn't cut it. She's a loser. Honestly, more often than not, I find myself agreeing with them, and that's just not good because I know I'm not a loser, but it does feel sometimes like I just gave up, but I had to choose for my health and not for external validation. The truth is, fulfillment doesn't come from a job or for making a whole bunch of money, or in my case what I thought was really, really important was getting that fulfillment from proving other people wrong and from having that status and just the external validation. Fulfillment really does come from within, and I needed to become 40 years old to finally realize that that's what's important. And just knowing, having that mindset that I am perfectly imperfect with my curly hair, my skin color, my tattoos, my voice that is too loud, that I'm laughing too loudly, all these things are perfect. I am perfect the way I am. And I just want to let you know that it's a really nice mindset to have. And maybe I just I just think that we need to be nicer to ourselves, right? For me personally, maybe self-love is like one bridge too far because I'm still working on just being nice to myself. And I want to encourage you to be nice to yourself as well, to embrace your flaws, to forgive yourself for your mistakes, and just be happy with your perfectly imperfect self. My hope for you is that no matter what age you are, you just accept yourself, embrace yourself. I recently discovered this little park when I was on my long run, and that's one of the other things that I have discovered now that I'm 40. Hard things don't have to be hard if you just make them easy. So for example, I was on an 8-mile run, and normally I would have my head down around mile 4 and be like powering through the rest of the 4 miles because it's such a long run and why is this not over yet? But now, on this particular run that I found this place, I found myself thinking, hey, maybe, maybe it can be easy. So I made sure that I had my head up, my shoulders relaxed, and looking around and just thinking to myself, how fortunate am I that I can do this, that I can take time for myself and work on my health and look around and see that I live in a beautiful place. And that's how I found this little park that I might have run past a million times but never actually saw. Hard things can be easy if you want them to be easy. That's another one of those really simple mindsets that are just making my 40s a little bit nicer. And also, I feel like grounding yourself in nature, touch some grass sometimes, is really an important part of me feeling so much better now that I'm a little bit older. You know, I know that not everybody has nice parks like this. If you do live in a big city that maybe you don't have something like this, available to you, but you may be able to make your own little plant sanctuary on a balcony or on your patio, or maybe just some plants in the house. I really do think that nature and plants, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel like life is just a little bit too much, nature can just help you slow down a little bit, right? Take in that deep breath, even if it's just in a little park in your busy neighborhood. It will help. I think it helps. I also found calm by simplifying my life and just cutting out the access, cutting out the things that were too much in my life, things that did not serve me, to just not do them anymore. And I think that simplifying gives you clarity. And clarity really is a superpower. It's kind of like that same superpower that patience gives you. Clarity gives you the power to know what you want and why you want it. And when you know these two things, nobody can steer you off your path, and you can stay true to yourself and you can be authentic to yourself. I think that's really important. As I reflect on my journey going from self-doubt and trying to prove myself to people all the time to now finally accepting myself and just living life the way I want to and not giving a fluff, I do realize that the journey is messy and things go wrong. And sometimes you revert back to your old self and you have to remind yourself to slow down, and you have to remind yourself to feel good about yourself and to be nice to yourself. It's messy. The journey is messy. It's perfectly imperfect.